It's an ambush.
Oh my God, it's an ambush!
It's an ambush!
Of course!
Good morning again, everyone, and welcome to a ambush stream, not only for you, but in a way also for me, because I had no expectation I'd be doing a second stream today, but something has happened that I cannot ignore and I cannot let go without comment. Fresh off the presses, a supplement from our favorite friend formerly at CNN, Chris Cillizza, talking about his previous Biden confession video from just a few days ago. Now, for those of you that weren't here, if you would like to see that stream, I should have put the link somewhere in the description, but I forgot to. You can find it easily on my YouTube page. But in summary, and it is really worth listening to the original, honestly, but in summary, earlier this week, the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal put out stories going into a deep dive on just how extensive an effort was made both by the White House staff, politicians in the orbit of the president, advisors to, and so on, and in the media to downplay and or outright cover up the cognitive and health decline of Joe Biden throughout the entirety of his presidency. Not at some late state, not right before, just after the debate with Trump, when it was more obvious than anybody could have imagined, but throughout the entirety of the presidency. And Chris Cillizza confessed, in no uncertain terms, that he capitulated to the White House's shame game on asking questions about Biden's cognitive decline or cognitive abilities. And he just gave into it. A professional journalist / reporter saying that, oh no, the people in power, I have to, give deference to their denials of getting information. And instead of passing on the story to the people that the White House was stonewalling such questions, he instead passed on the shame game. Because he put out articles like this: Republicans keep trying to make Biden's mental capacity an issue. This is from August 19th of 2021, 8 months into Joe Biden's presidency. He concluded this article by saying, what's the goal here? To raise doubts in voters' minds about Biden, and his age in particular. It might not have worked for Trump, but Republicans haven't given up. The point: this is the sort of gross, lowest common denominator politics that drive people away from public life. If Republicans have some sort of proof that Biden is declining, they should bring it forward. If they don't, they should stop doing what they're doing immediately. So Chris Cillizza became an agent of the White House as a member of the press, in his own confession, in contrast to his own reporting. Now, I put this video out the other day, and obviously it created a whole lot of backlash, and I suppose in some very small, minute way, I was part of that backlash. Because I've been following Chris Cillizza's print career for years on Lords of the Night and elsewise. He's always been kind of this half-jokey mascot for Lords of the Night because we read his copy so often. Became kind of a joke because of some of his... he was the editor-at-large, and there were numerous editing mistakes in most of his copy, but also for some of his hack-worthy takes on things. But it was always, generally speaking, in good fun. But as he gave his confession in the previous video, and as he let loose more facts about his lack of spine and collusion, effectively, with a conspiracy of silence around Joe Biden's health as the president of the United States, I got more and more irritated. But I went through that at length in the previous stream. So you can go look at that if you'd like. I even put out a little essay onto X yesterday, a lengthy X post that I called my TED Talk on the subject. But yes, during the time that I was finishing up the Sunday stream this morning, and before I had a chance to really take a break, Chris Cillizza drops a response, a follow-up to his confession. And I could not help but want to cover it immediately. Why wait till tomorrow when I can do it today? So, first and foremost, unlike the previous video, I have boosted the audio on this, so it should be far clearer than the last one. You shouldn't have to strain yourself too hard or turn up your volume too much. And I haven't watched this ahead of time, so I don't know what he's going to say. We'll find out together, and with some water at my side, I will attempt to preserve my voice throughout. So this one clocks in at just over 9 minutes. But before I get there, a few hellos to those of you who have decided to join me, perhaps for a second time already this morning. And I do apologize. I never, as far as I can recall, I never do streams in this quick a succession. But this is kind of core to the mythos of Scribelight, to Lords of the Night, and also is just too interesting for me to drop for a stream tomorrow or something. So here we go. Spittle Buggies over on X. Good morning. Draco Rincewind, pardon me. 2 streams are being spoiled today. Well, if that's how you see it, I'll take it. Tack Alpaca, good morning. Dexter's Killer Lab, good morning. Jordan Herbert, good morning to you. Fun Time Bats, good morning. Resolute Germ, another scribe. I know. I'm like a disease. I'm in good company, Resolute Germ. Michiru Kirurugi, you're here at the start this time. Yay! SWD40, good morning. John Trioxin, good morning. Big Dave 1066, good morning. Eaton Nass, good morning. Shadowclaw, hello again. Frosted Glass, good morning. Liesel7, hello again. Spy Demand, good morning. And to anybody else who's joining late, anybody else who's lurking, anybody in the future, good morning. All right, so here we go. This is Chris Cillizza supplementing his previous Biden confession with some more details. What is he going to say? Is it going to fix any of the damage done? Will it add to the problem? Let's find out.
So I want to come back to the video I made on Thursday where I apologize for not pushing hard enough in covering Joe Biden over the last 4 years.
I'm more curious to hear if he has anything to say about, like with the article quotes I showed previously, passing on the shame to anyone else who would ask such questions. That he capitulated of his own volition is one thing. But by putting out the article that he did and any other commentary thereafter, he was effectively just being a mouthpiece for the White House in pushing the insulation for Biden. I wonder if he has anything to say about that.
The video has, and I knew this would happen, the video has become sort of a little viral in that conservatives have seized on it and said, see, the mainstream media was covering for Joe Biden.
You were. You said so.
They knew all along, which is not at all what I said. So,
Chris, if the White House tells you not to ask questions, that is what you report to the public. If you do not, and you instead rebroadcast their very message to anyone else who would question it, you are helping in the cover-up.
So I had a little time this morning. I'm at a soccer tournament, and I thought, you know what? I want to just go through, a handful of thoughts that I have, both about the apology video and then about the reaction to it. All right.
You know what? In my dream of dreams, one of two things is going to happen here. Either he's going to directly address some of my personal reactions to this, which I'm sure is shared by a lot of people. But in my dream of dreams, he actually mentions my name. I actually have screenshotted somewhere, and I enshrined this on my Twitter feed. The one time I ever had a direct interaction with Chris Cillizza, he put out an image of himself that was sort of stylized image of him on a T-shirt. And it was just his face. It was just sort of his from shoulders up profile. And I took this image and I photoshopped it into a parody of a Obama poster. And I just put "Nope" underneath it. And retweeted it out saying, "I like this one too," and I was so happy. Like the notice me senpai. But yeah, so okay, Chris, I honestly, I am dying to know what you have to say in response to the criticism.
All right, so I also wanted to take the chance to kind of reiterate what I said in that video, because apparently a lot of people took it for their own purposes.
Okay, all right, you know what? If I was so hot and bothered by it that I somehow misheard or misinterpreted what you had to say, then I'm here for it.
For their own purposes, which again, I knew would happen. All right, so let's start here. In no way did I or the mainstream media more broadly ignore questions about Joe Biden's health.
Republicans keep trying to make Biden's mental capacity an issue. What's the goal here? To raise doubts in voters' minds about Biden and his age in particular. It might not have worked for Trump, but Republicans haven't given up. The point, this is the sort of gross, lowest common denominator politics that drive people away from public life. If Republicans have some sort of proof that Biden is declining, they should bring it forward. If they don't, they should stop doing what they're doing immediately. I'm going to keep tapping the sign, Chris.
I asked questions about his health.
And?
I assume, because I saw stories written about them, I assume my mainstream media brethren at the time asked questions about his health.
So if you think another news outlet is doing something, you lack any personal curiosity about the accuracy of such an assumption?
My issue, because he was 78 to 82 years old, it made sense to ask questions about his health. And he wasn't in public a lot. He didn't do a lot of press conferences. He didn't do a lot of public appearances. And the public was concerned about it.
If Republicans have some sort of proof that Biden is declining, they should bring it forward. If they don't, they should stop doing what they're doing immediately. I'm going to keep tapping the sign, Chris.
Majority of the public thought he was too old. So it made sense to ask questions, and I did. What I was apologizing for, and I will continue to apologize for, because I think I should have done better on this, is I shouldn't have taken he's fine. You have no evidence other than he's not doing a lot, and that's just because he doesn't like you guys, as proof that he was in fact fine.
That was your original sin, Chris, of taking their word for it. But then you passed the shame game on to others. Are you going to address that part of it?
I should have pushed harder on that front.
Okay, well, you're effectively repeating what you said in your first video.
That's what I'm apologizing for.
So you've said nothing different than you did in your first video. It doesn't cleanse you of that original sin in any way, shape, or form. It's just completely repetitive. So what are you adding to this? Thank you, Frosted Glass. I hope he calls you a black man because of the grok pic. Oh yeah, that's right. My grok AI avatar. Actually, I have two of those now. Would you like to? All right, let me just for the sake of fun. So here's how grok interprets me. When I said, draw a picture of @Scribelight, or draw a picture of Scribelight, who runs the @Scribelight account based on his avatar. And that's what I got. I then, just to see what I could do with it, got into some very, very specific prompts to try to make a rendition of my regular profile avatar a bit more accurately. And this is what I came up with. Of about 7 different iterations, this was the closest I could get to kind of my artistic avatar. Let me know what you think of this. I'll leave it up for a little bit. Okay, so you've just repeated effectively what you said before.
It's not that I never asked questions. I sought to cover up, not in any way, shape, or form.
I'm not going to read this again. I'm just going to put it up for reference. You know, you asked questions, you accepted the dodge, and then you passed on the shame game, Chris. You know, I'll stipulate, I'll extend the benefit of the doubt. You did ask questions, but then you stopped when you were told not to.
And that's the second point I want to make. This has zero to do with me trying to cover for Biden. In fact, I wrote and talked a lot about his ability to do this job.
Then why is there a confession video, Chris? Why did you feel the need to put out a whole video confessing your failings when it came to Biden? If you've been, since at least August of 2021, if you've been questioning and putting out concerns and so on about Biden for the last 3 years consistently, what do you have to apologize for? You know, this is why I put on the thumbnail, methinks I doth protest too much.
To do this job. I remember when the Her report came out. Remember that special counsel report about Biden and Hunter Biden, and it said that Joe Biden was kind of out of it, and during the interview, and that her would not recommend trying Biden because he probably wouldn't be convicted because he would be a nice old man with memory issues. That's how he would come across.
Chris, if you're going to try to take credit for someone else telling you that he had a problem and then you felt safe to say something, that's not much of a defense. Just like your confession video did not arise until after the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal effectively made a similar confession to the media writ large. When did the Her report come out, Chris? How long had you been covering the news and politics up to that point regarding Joe Biden, Chris?
I wrote all about that.
Yeah, everybody else wrote about that too. Now, just imagine, if you will, for a second, that instead of reposting and talking about something that someone else went to the effort of investigating, if, when you had the opportunity, you had asked the questions and then reported the answers you received from the White House instead of, again, simply rebroadcasting the denials. I mean, now, my favorite what if is what if Dr. Doom became Sorcerer Supreme. I might have a second runner up here.
I said this reinforces the main problem for the Biden presidency.
The main problem that only became something you were willing to report on after somebody else gave you leave to do so?
My issue, again, is the early part of his presidency, 2020 to 2022.
He wasn't president until 2021, Chris. He was running for office in 2020. He was running for office in 2019. There are examples of him losing his mind and memory in 2019. These weren't secret, Chris.
I should have done better. In 2023, 2024, certainly, I was writing and talking a lot about these issues.
Johnny come lately does not merit make, Chris. You had every opportunity to put forward the information that the White House was stonewalling you with a shame game emotional manipulation as far back as 2021. But you didn't. Instead, you became an agent of that message to the rest of the world and made it a partisan thing by shaming Republicans for asking the same questions that now, 4 years hence, we already had the answers to by anybody who was watching things. But now that the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal have said it, now it's okay to say it.
But earlier on, I think I took he's fine for an answer too quickly. But in no way, shape, or form did this have to do with me covering up for Joe Biden.
You know, if it wasn't emblematic of the utter and absolute failure of the Fourth Estate to do their job over the last 4 years. I laugh, but it's more sort of a, laugh of bewildered insanity. This might actually be a funny apology video, but it's not. It's not funny. It doesn't fix anything. And obviously, Chris Cillizza here is an avatar of the mentality that went on not only at CNN but at so many other places. But this is a laughable response to his own confession.
Not something I'm interested in, not something I do.
Wait, sorry. Let me back up a little bit. Let me make sure I got that right.
I think I took he's fine for an answer too quickly, but in no way, shape, or form did this have to do with me covering up for Joe Biden. Not something I'm interested in, not something I do.
I'm tapping the sign.
What did I do wrong specifically? Thought 3, this is.
Okay, now, please redeem yourself a little bit and apologize for passing on the shame game to anyone else who would ask such questions. Please, Chris, you have to have at least that much self-awareness.
What did I do wrong specifically that I can do better going forward? So every time I or anyone in the media raise this idea of, is he too old? Is he up to this? What's his daily routine like? The Biden people, Biden world, not just the White House, but people around him would say, how dare you?
Yes, the Biden people would say, how dare you? The Biden people would say, how dare you? That would be indicative of a Biden person, wouldn't it, Chris? So your rejoinder is...
How could you? You're age shaming him.
Yes, age shaming him. What's the goal here? To raise doubts in voters' minds about Biden and his age in particular. Yes, that is what the Biden people were saying, Chris.
You should see him behind closed doors. He's amazing. And you're a human being, or I'm a human being. And
yes, Chris, we are indeed all human beings. Also, real quick, over in the chat, I have a couple of celebrities. First and foremost, Satsu 2 cents. Hey, Satsu, how's it going? I won't play your ad right now because I know that'll be annoying for you. And Polly from Latino Cent, live again. Yeah, so Chris Cillizza posted a response to his confession video of the other day. I couldn't let it sit and wait for another day, and I had to get it out of my system. So here we are, once again, rock us like a hurricane. Hi, Polly. Okay. Hi, Polly. Now, there's a lot of triangles involved. Anyway.
And that has some impact on you. And I think it probably had too much impact on me that I said, all right, well, I don't want to age shame anyone. At the same time, like the public has questions about Joe Biden's age. They are worried. He is not in public as much as most of our other presidents have been.
And so, Chris, from August of 2021 up through the HUR report, HUR, you did or said what of significance? And I'm asking sincerely. I don't have a full indexed extent of every story Chris Cillizza ever posted or comment made publicly between August of 2021 and when the HUR report came out. So
I think I let that get to me. And that's point 4. I should have stood my ground more. That's where my apology is centered.
Chris, you've effectively repeated every major point from your original video. There's nothing new here so far, except in your attempt to clarify, you're just making yourself look more ridiculous. Do you have something, dare I say, substantive to contribute to the overall conversation?
Not that there was some grand conspiracy. Not that I didn't ask questions about Joe Biden's health and write about it and analyze it and talk about it. I did. But I should have stood my ground more and said, you know what? Like, maybe you call me an ageist and maybe you're saying that he's great, but I should have asked and pushed harder and asked more questions. Again,
I don't mean to be a broken record, but it has to be made clear. Chris Cillizza didn't just take the White House's word for it and keep mum. He passed along the shame game, the ageist game, the you better have some evidence game, all the way on to any of his critics. So for him to say he was not part of the process, I mean, like he met in some kind of smoky back room and had a deal with the White House. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe he's part of a actual, like, face-to-face secret handshake conspiracy. But in acting as an agent for the White House's message, he colluded with their intent and with their cover-up. And by extension, he assisted in the cover-up. He may not want to admit it, and I can understand why he wouldn't want to admit it. But it would behoove him to at least have the self-awareness of what he did do and not continually deny the effect and the contribution he made to the whole process.
I, of course, was not intentionally covering for Biden. And for all these people who say, anyone could see it. Okay, well, your view, most of those people are conservative partisans, but
one moment, please. There's another little reminder I forgot to load up here. 1 second. Let me say for the billionth time, reporters don't root for a side, period. By extension, he's saying that reporters are nonpartisan. But now, in the aftermath of all these revelations, in the aftermath of the confessions from Democratic politicians and others in the Democratic Party that they too saw problems, even now, Chris Cillizza cannot avoid blaming and shaming. And here's the thing. What you're saying, Chris, is the conservatives are smarter than you for their skills at perception. You don't even understand what you're saying when you say it. You're trying to be all smarmy, but you're just digging the hole deeper.
your view of saying, like, I saw Joe Biden walking and he looks old and bad, that's not the same thing as reporting journalistically on his condition.
Yeah, you know what, right? You know what, Chris? You're right. You're absolutely right. It's not the same. Whose job was it to report on these things, Chris? Whose duty was it to report on these things, Chris? Whose entire vocation is supposed to be centered around reporting on these things, Chris? If the Republicans come to you with questions about Biden's mental capacity, whose job is it to report on either the truth or the untruth of these things, Chris? Oh God, I don't know. I just don't know. It is a mystery. I wish I had the unsolved mysteries stinger right now. I don't, but
Your anecdotal view of how he looks is not the same thing as he's struggling.
Are you sure about that, Chris? Because Chris, it was plain to anyone paying attention from 2019 forward that there was something wrong with the man. The Wall Street Journal and the New York Times have reported from insiders that there were concerns about his abilities in the opening months of his administration. These concerns were not without merit, Chris. even if we're just talking hindsight, everything you're saying now is an empty criticism. You didn't report on it. You actively pushed back against anyone who tried. You abdicated your curiosity to the White House, Chris. The White House became your Jiminy Cricket, and you never questioned it, did you?
Behind the scenes. Okay. Point 5.
Okay.
I really do think Democrats and the Biden people in particular owe us all an explanation here.
Oh, you think they owe you all an explanation? Oh, I'm glad you say that, because you're right. They do. They do. Not only do they owe an explanation, even though we all know why they did it. We know why they did it, Chris. You know why they did it. What I want to see is some accountability. I talked about this in my little X essay that I put out yesterday in my TED Talk. That you had everybody surrounding the president knowing that there was enough of a problem to say maybe he is not capable of fulfilling his duties. By their silence, effectively bucking the Constitution and the 25th Amendment and overriding the very mechanisms we have in place to deal with just such a situation. And what is happening to them as a result? Like I say, I'm not a constitutional scholar or a lawyer, but there is, to me, morally speaking, especially when it comes to the presidency of the United States, a duty to inform if the president is in a situation where he is incapable of fulfilling his duties or is somehow incapacitated. That no one in his circle, the vice president, his cabinet, nobody did during the course of the last 4 years. Thank you, Keeverdam. Fundraisers are in chat. Oh, my apologies. I got caught up. Thank you, Keeverdam, very much, both for the donation and for the link. Everybody at the top of the chat box, thank you, Keeverdam, is the link for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. If you can donate, please click on that and do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. Thank you, Keeverdam. Appreciate it. Anyway, let me back up slightly.
Democrats and the Biden people in particular owe us all an explanation here. Because what we saw on June 27th, the debate between Trump and Biden.
What we saw on June 27th was no surprise to anybody that had been paying attention for the last 4 years, Chris.
It was clear that this was not someone, certainly not someone who could serve another 4 years in office.
I'll grant you that.
But maybe not even someone who could stay in office for the final 6 months.
I'll grant you that, and yet here we are.
Now, if you buy the best case explanation that the Biden people make is he has good days and he has bad days.
Chris, do you, after your confession, even in jest, can you extend any benefit of the doubt to the White House? Given your own confession.
Okay, and that was a bad day. Maybe. But they insisted over and over and over again that everything was fine, that there were no problems in any way, shape, or form.
And you took that as gospel and you rebroadcasted it, Chris. And so, you already said this in your first confession video, effectively. What are you supplementing here?
Well, it's now clear that there were, from loads of reporting, and behind the scenes stuff, including
loads of reporting by other people who could have easily done the same thing 4 years ago, but chose not to. And I'm looking at one of them,
including a Wall Street Journal piece last week, a New York Times piece last week. There's been lots and lots of reporting on it. So
just like the Her report, as soon as somebody else gives you cover to make questions or criticisms come about, then you say something.
Were they lying when they said he's totally fine?
I don't know, Chris. I don't know. No, gosh, were they lying? Were they lying? Oh, Boy, what a time to ask a question.
What a twist.
Yeah, I don't know, Chris. Do you think they were lying? Are you seriously and unironically asking that question, Chris?
When Kamala Harris was asked whether she had seen any signs of Joe Biden's decline, she said no. Was that a lie?
Chris, if the next words out of your mouth are, I don't know, I really hope green slime comes raining down from on high onto your head.
I know Democrats don't want to relitigate this past election, but I think it's important that we figure out how this all happened.
Chris, you helped it happen, Chris. You and who knows how many other outlets out there took the White House at face value and didn't ask questions, because to question Joe Biden's mental cognition was ageist. It also threatened the one man who saved us from Donald Trump. How did this happen? You were there. You watched it all come down. Even if, and it's a very Herculean effort for me to do so, even if I provide you the benefit of the doubt that you were just completely unaware, completely detached, you're an innocent, passive actor in this whole thing. On reflection, it is obvious how this happened, Chris. No one was allowed to ask questions, and anyone who did was called a conspiracy theorist or a MAGA supporter or a racist or a right-wing nut job, and on and on and on and on and on, Chris. The very fact that everybody acted so shocked when Joe Biden couldn't even form a complete sentence on that debate stage shows just how deep it went and the self-delusion or active deception went. And you were there for it, Chris. You know, both at CNN and after CNN. You know, even with the benefit of getting outside of the CNN bubble between 2022 and 2024 to this point, you didn't do or say anything to the extent that you did on Thursday with your confession video. I mean, it's amazing. What? And I honestly don't know the answer to this question. Did Chris Cillizza put out any kind of confessional after the debate? Not what he did this last Thursday, but immediately after the debate, when it was beyond doubt that Biden had problems. Did Chris Cillizza come out and say, boy, oh boy, I remember back in 2021 when I asked the White House about these things and they told me it was bad to do so, and boy, I made a mistake. Why does it seemingly only when someone else makes the revelation that Chris Cillizza feels comfortable saying something, whether it's the Her Report or the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times? It's incredible. So that it doesn't happen again. All right, point 6. This doesn't happen again. We need to figure out how this happens. It doesn't happen again. Okay, Chris. Yeah, because nobody can read the tea leaves on this one. The White House lied, and you guys reposted those lies and bought it. That's how this happened, Chris. My whole goal in making that apology video was, and I knew it would be used for partisan purposes. Chris, this is not a partisan issue. If the media, if the Fourth Estate is unwilling to hold truth to power, it is bad no matter who is in charge. If the media writ large was in the pocket of Donald Trump, I'd have the same complaints for them as I'm having for you in regards to Biden. There needs to be a series of checks and balances in this country. You can't take the people in power's word for it because they will lie. That's what you're there for, both as an individual and as a representative of the media. And you took sides, Chris. You don't want to admit it. You're doing everything you can to mentally backflip your way out of the fact of it. But you took sides. You became a mouthpiece for the White House and not an objective and skeptical reporter, Chris.
I've been in this long enough to know that that's the case. But my whole goal was to say, look, I have pledged to you guys to be as honest and transparent and as authentic as possible.
Okay, so when did you put out the story about the White House stonewalling you with shame game tactics, Chris? Prior to Thursday, when did you put out that story? Because that should have been the first story you put out. When?
And that's easy when you get it right. But if you do something where you didn't do everything you probably should have, I think it's important to acknowledge that.
I agree, Chris. You know, at the very least, I will give you credit for coming forward and saying something rather than entirely pretending that nothing happened. But the problem is the excuses you're making for yourself ring hollow. Because if you'd said nothing at all, that'd be bad enough. But you didn't say nothing at all. Instead, you perpetuated the lie. You actively shamed anyone in a partisan fashion and made it partisan yourself regarding questions of the president's effectiveness. You did that. There's your byline. There's your headline. There's your copy. You were an active participant in pushing aside doubt, Chris. You're not just some passive individual, asked some questions and just kind of shrugged their shoulders and went off and did your business again. You pushed the lie. And until you come to terms with that, until you confess to that part of it, everything you're saying, beyond everything else, is so hollow.
I don't really care if people are attacking me as a big Democrat or big Republican or Trump sympathizer, trying to get in good with Trump.
No. If I'm attacking you, Chris, which isn't an attack, it's a criticism. It's criticizing the very nature and quality of what you claim to be your profession. It doesn't matter who's in office. If you criticize Trump legitimately, great. If you criticize Biden legitimately, great. But you confessed that you stopped short. And I have to wonder, if Donald Trump had shown on stage and in speeches and otherwise a propensity for losing his mind, losing his way, stumbumbling his way through a speech, mixing up the current Prime Minister of the UK, Theresa May, with Margaret Thatcher, saying that he was at events that he couldn't have been at, and on and on and on. If Donald Trump had done that, I really have to wonder, would you have taken the White House's word for it that it was age shaming? You talk about partisanship. You categorize one side of or the other as the ones who would ask such questions, conservative or others. Chris, in your heart of hearts, if the Trump administration had dismissed such questions as age shaming, what would your response have been? Would you have told the American public the White House just stonewalled me and tried to shame me into not asking questions? Or would you have done what you did for Biden and say nothing and instead rebroadcast the Trump White House's message to doubters? I look into your heart, Chris.
Why didn't you say this earlier about Biden? You know, people are going to do what they're going to do. My only commitment is to you all and to myself to make sure that I am living up to that standard of that pledge to you all of being independent, yes, but also honest and transparent. And looking back and reading everything I've read about Joe Biden and his condition, I should have done better.
I mean, I'd just be more of a broken record than I already am at this point. But I have to pause occasionally because YouTube.
And I wanted to acknowledge that. All right, last thing, seventh thing.
Seventh thing. All right. The Magnificent Seven. All right.
I really do believe everyone in the media, mainstream media, independent content creators, etc., benefits when they say, I didn't get this, I either got this wrong or I didn't get this totally right.
Oh, so wait, are you distributing the responsibility here? Wait, what?
And I want to explain why. And
you want to explain why anybody who gets something wrong should fess up to getting something wrong? Am I 6 years old again or something?
I want to acknowledge it, and I want you to know it wasn't some sort of secret agenda. I just got it wrong. Because
you didn't just get it wrong, Chris. I'm tapping the sign again.
Because I'm a human. I'm not.
Chris, you are a claimed journalist. You are a claimed professional reporter. Just being human, I can take a mistake, Chris. I could understand a flub. But the very function of your profession, you failed at miserably and you actively derided. Putting truth to power, Chris. Not accepting power's truth, Chris.
Not perfect. The vast majority of mistakes that are made, including this one and me not pushing harder on the Biden health questions, are honest ones. Now,
I'm only human, of flesh and blood, a man. I am just a man, human, born to make mistakes. Alan Thyler, thank you so much for the opportunity to take a moment for myself. And also a lovely, smiley, happy Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wowie, wow, wow.
Oh, there's a P-Dog Night Dogcat Fox. Thank you so much, Alan Thyler. All right, we're almost done. We're almost done. Sorry, where were you at, Chris, again? Sort of making excuses?
Questions are honest ones. Now, I know bad faith actors are going to draw bad faith conclusions off of probably this video too, which is fine.
I'm not operating in bad faith, Chris. I'm listening to what you have to say and comparing it to your own actions or lack thereof. And honestly, here's the thing. If somebody thinks I'm acting in bad faith, and I mean this sincerely in the chat or elsewise, X or otherwise, let me know. If you think I got something wrong, you think I'm being too harsh or too one note on this, if there's some evidence that he's not providing to his own defense, I guess, that I'm somehow missing, by all means. I don't want to believe, and this is why I get so critical and was so critical over the years on Lords of the Night with CNN and Chris Cillizza as the avatar thereof, is because I want the media to be strong and effective and doing their jobs and fulfilling the promise and the necessity of their profession. I want them to. That's why I get so heated up over this, is because it's frustrating. I don't have the capability or the resources to be a reporter or a journalist like Chris Cillizza had the opportunity to be when it was needed the most. That the President of the United States was incapable of doing his job, that this country has been run effectively by assistants and unelected people, staffers for the last 4 years. You want to think of the implications of that, the constitutional implications of that, let alone the moral and ethical implications of that? And what duty to inform not only the press had, but the elected officials in Joe Biden's orbit that knew otherwise. This is and has been, this isn't a revelation anybody's been paying attention. But now that finally the conspiracy of let's not be ageist has gone by the wayside, this is something that really, really needs some examination and some safeguards need to be set so this does not happen again. I don't want a brainless Donald Trump running the country in name only. Because if you don't do something about this, a precedent is set and it will become a pestilence in the future of our country.
That's politics. But I do think the media, we have a trust issue. And the way that we heal that trust issue is to say, we are imperfect. We are going to get things wrong. When we get them wrong, they are human errors, not acts of attempted cover up, or that we're in cahoots with one party or the other.
I'd apologize, but I have to keep making this point. Republicans keep trying to make Biden's mental capacity an issue. What's the goal here? To raise doubts in voters' minds about Biden and his age in particular. It might not have worked for Trump, but Republicans haven't given up. The point. This is the sort of gross, lowest common denominator politics that drive people away from public life. If Republicans have some sort of proof that Biden is declining, they should bring it forward. If they don't, they should stop doing what they're doing immediately. You made a choice, Chris. You didn't slip on a banana peel and miss what was going on. You made an active effort to suppress doubt in a partisan fashion. I don't know what to tell you.
And I really think we would gain a little bit of trust back if we did that. I hope that me doing this helps you trust me to know that when I screw up, I will tell you.
It took you 4 years, Chris. It took you 4 years. And I haven't heard any apology for that article in particular. Of everything else in this situation, that article says a lot that you're not confessing to.
And I will tell you why, and I will work my best not to have it happen again. And that's sort of all I can do.
So you basically reiterated everything you said in your first video, but just doubled down on everything and tried to escape responsibility because you're a human being. That's what I took from this.
So that's all I got. Sunday morning, cold. My wife's birthday.
Well, happy birthday to your wife.
But I had a little time and I wanted to share with you because I had some thoughts and I wanted to make sure that I got them out to you all.
I'm glad you did, Chris.
As always, I ask you to do 4 things. I ask you to subscribe to this channel.
Oh, you know what? I join Chris in that sentiment. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel.
If you want independent, transparent, authentic journalism.
If you want independent, authentic commentary and analysis. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'll take that as a win, at least a little bit.
I hope that you consider this channel. That's what I'm offering. I
hope you consider this channel as well.
Hope you like this video.
Yes, please like this stream.
I hope you comment on this video.
I hope you comment on this stream.
I guess as a lot of you will. And I hope you tell, I can't do my 10 friends hand gesture because I'm holding my computer, but tell 10 friends about this channel.
Oh, now there's something I hadn't thought of. Yes, if you don't already have, if you have 10 friends, Lord knows I can probably count on my one hand how many really close friends I have. But if you have 10 friends, tell at least, tell you what, tell 5 of them. I won't hold you to the same homework assignment that Chris would, but tell 5 of them about my channel if you think it's worth your time to do so. I'd appreciate it. A couple other super chats here, and then we'll wrap things up because my voice is once again leaving me. Chicago Mike, thank you so much. Is it me or is Chris trying to gaslight us as if he's still with CNN? Chris is an island unto himself. He was before he came to CNN. He was during his time at CNN, and apparently he still is after CNN. I had thought perhaps that maybe it was the bubble he was in at CNN that caused him to have such a bias, such an issue. But apparently it's just inherent to Chris Cillizza, because even 2 years out of CNN, he still sounds exactly like the copy I read of him when he was at CNN. So thank you, Chicago Mike, and thank you. Help! Alf is going to eat me. Save me, Mim the Mum. Are you friends with Mexican Iron Man, Mikey, by any chance? Do we set a public service age limit at what, 70? It's a real question now. It's a real question now as to whether or not cognitive tests should be part of politicians or people in positions of authority after a certain age. I mean, what have we seen lately? Mitch McConnell, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi. There was this Texas representative, I think a Republican or something, they just found in effectively in a dementia nursing home, who'd been living there for the last 6 or 7 months. And she was still on the payroll of the people in Texas as a sitting representative. I talked about this the other night on TED Excellence. This is the end result of what you get with the concept of career politicians. You get people who, at a certain point, are no longer capable of serving their function, but they're stuck in so deeply that they just keep going and going and going. I can't say we set an age limit, but if someone is like I said, there is and I know somebody made fun of me for saying the word duty in here, but there is a duty to inform. If someone in an elected office is showing signs of mental decline, especially, and it is not just a once in a while kind of senior moment or something, there has to be some mechanism or some requirement to at least have things checked out, and then that information made aware to those in authority and or the public. The Biden presidency says this to be so. The actions of his staffers and aides and advisors and even politicians in contact, or in the case of Adam Smith and Jim Himes, not allowed contact when they should have been, are things that should have been more broadly broadcast. And that is the fault of the individuals themselves and for the media, like Chris Cillizza, for not telling us or looking into it more deeply, because they risked their access to the White House or they risked their reputation with their partisan friends or something. It's this should be a humongous scandal. But of course, we would have to then require the very people who are responsible for failing to investigate themselves fairly and hold themselves accountable in some way fairly. But anyway, everyone, I apologize if I didn't get to all of your comments. My voice is running out. Please leave them below after this stream is posted. Apologies again for the runner-up stream on a Sunday right after the Sunday stream, but I couldn't let this sit. Let me know what you thought about this in the comments. Am I off base? Am I missing something? Am I too harsh? Am I not harsh enough? Let me know. Also, if you're not already a member of the Discord server, I can use the same link as earlier because it's still a valid link. There's a link in the chat for the Discord server. If you'd like to join the Discord server, just click on that link. And in the landing channel called Say Hello as well as the secret word. The secret word is Chris. Just say hello, Chris, and I'll know that you watched the show. Everyone, thank you for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, link at the top of the chat box. Thank you guys for your generosity. Very much appreciated. This is the last stream I'm going to do today, unless something else happens. Everyone, have a good rest of your Sunday. Have a good week ahead of you. Merry Christmas ahead of time. Hope to see you for TED Xmas on Wednesday. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.